So welcome to part 2 of the Tribal Tobacco Advocacy Toolkit training. So if we just take a look at the framework to begin, you'll see that community engagement is the center of our framework, and it overlaps with both education and policy because it's needed for both to be successful, I guess, in both of those sections. So if you're on the homepage of the Tribal Tobacco Advocacy Toolkit, you're going to scroll down, and right underneath the introduction will be the community engagement section. So in this, I think we will click on one option from each of the sections and dig a little bit deeper to see what they hold. So under coalition building, I'm going to start with grassroots movements. And in this section, you'll see just kind of an intro statement at the very top. This one, the main point is that grassroots movements engage ordinary local people to work together to create change. Underneath that, you can see the planning section of how to have a grassroots movement with some steps. And you'll also see throughout the toolkit sections within here that can be clicked on. So in this one, the fifth step of doing a grassroots movement is to recruit members. So if we click on that, it's going to take us to another section of the toolkit. And if you're not sure where you're at, you can always look up here. You're still in the community engagement section, but you've just now moved to the coalition recruitment section. And this has its own content separate. But for now, we'll go back to grassroots movement. And you'll see a lot of our sections have an action statement of basically just, this one says start with whatever you have. Even if it doesn't seem like much, it's a place to start. And with a little bit of passion and commitment, anything can be done. There's also a resources section in each of our pages, and here you'll find some clickable links as well. Some of them that might take you to a document or an example from the Chunley Coalition. Others might take you to an outside link, and this one is one that happens to go to a different link that has a great example from the Standing Rock Resistance Encampment. Then you'll see a couple pointers from us on what if. So if you are trying to get this grassroots movement going and you hit some roadblocks or some barriers, for us, some that we experience as a Chunley Coalition were maybe not being able to find a leader in the beginning. If that's the case, maybe you're the best leader. In hints, this is a little bit just kind of lessons learned over the years. For a grassroots movement, the Chunley Coalition has found that avoiding a hierarchical structure with like a president, secretary, chairperson, committees didn't always work, or it never worked for us. We've never done that, and it's worked very well to just have everybody on a level playing field. And we feel like that's been helpful because it's helped everyone to feel like their opinion is, that it counts and it's heard. And then at the bottom of the page here, you'll see some specific examples from the Chunley Coalition on how we how we organized our own grassroots movement. In the very top, if we scroll back up, sorry for the scrolling, you'll see step 2 of planning is to define the goal and objectives of the Chunley Coalition. So that's basically what you want to accomplish and how you're gonna get there. So for the Chunley Coalition, we just shared our goal. And again, the goal should be, that pie in the sky thing that you really, in a perfect world could achieve. So for us, that was to reduce the tobacco disparity on CRST. And the objectives, so how we will reach that goal is through education with our youth on the dangers of commercial tobacco to prevent tobacco use, through advocacy for smoke-free air policies, through supporting tobacco users to quit, and to encourage and educate our own family and friends to advocate for smoke-free air policies. So those were the objectives of how we intended to reduce the tobacco disparity on CRST. So that's the bottom of the grassroots movement page in the community engagement section. So if we just hit back, we'll be back at this page. In collect and share data, this is another really important way to engage with your community. There's a couple options here. If you have the capacity to do local surveys, you can check that out. If maybe you're not quite ready for that and you just want to find what exists on the web, here's another option of how to look through state and national data and kind of customize it to fit your own area. And then sharing data in a meaningful way is critical to make sure you're not just getting those numbers, but that you're communicating them to the people that really count. So we'll start with that one in this section. And here you'll see, for us, we learned that all data tells a story. So finding out what that story is and communicating it to both your general community members as well as the decision makers is a really great way to educate as well as move policy if that's what you're interested in. So here kind of some planning steps is identifying what it is that you want, and then how and where. So where will it be used? Will it be shared on social media or on a digital media platform like YouTube? And again, those two links are clickable. So we'll just check social media out here. And again, that's just going to take you to a different section of the toolkit. After that, you're going to challenge your volunteers. So ask them, what data points really stand out to you, and is that something you feel like you can communicate with others? If they ask you, what is the Chunley Coalition all about, and why does that matter? It's important for all of your volunteers and your members to have one statistic that they can cite ready to go in their head to share. Then D there says sign up to present. So making sure that information isn't just shared within your coalition or your group or your tribe, but trying to get it out as far and as wide as possible. So a couple materials needed to consider. One website that we love is pictochart.com. We make a lot of our graphics, infographics, posters, that type of thing there. And then resources. This is a great story by Miss Abigail Echohawk, who talks about Indigenous research as storytelling in a Red Talk video. So another clickable link that will take you away to a YouTube channel where you can check out how research can be used as storytelling. So some of our sections, the last one didn't have the follow-up section, but this one does. So oftentimes you can't just do this section and stop, but making sure you ask those critical questions at the end of your work to find out, did you get the outcome that you were looking for? Did it help move your goal forward? So in the bottom here, the Chunley Coalition's example on this is, we did an opinion poll. We've done it a couple of ways, I should say. One of them was to just set up a table in our local tribal grocery store in their lobby and collect paper copies of a 5-question survey from people that walked through. Other options, we've done actually the American Indian Adult Tobacco Survey, which you can find on the CDC website. It's called the AIATS. And from that, we found some great data on people's opinions on tobacco policy. So you can see in this graphic here that we highlighted 75% of tribal members believe we should protect public places such as restaurants, work areas, and tribal offices from secondhand smoke. So that's something that we highlighted. Then this is another little infographic. I believe we had this printed as what like on a flyer that could be posted on bulletins. And we also had this printed in our newspaper and on our social media accounts. So this was kind of to address some of the myths that were floating around the community about what our smoke-free air policy was intending to do. So you can see we did just a bullet point list of what the policy will do and what it will not do, and to know the facts. So that's just a couple of ways how we shared our own data in meaningful ways. Then in the multimedia section, let's just go ahead to digital media for this one. And this one's talking about not only videos, but pictures as well, because of course they can be worth 1,000 words and can really be a change agent at whatever it is you're looking to communicate. Some planning steps here of what to do, of course, making a lot of decisions on what exactly it is you're looking for and how you can go about it. Here's one example I want to click on from the Chunley Coalition. This is a template that shows kind of how we developed a storyline. So in this, what we did leading up to doing a video recording was thought about what we want our viewers to see and what we want them to hear during each of the clips. But there's a lot of great resources from the Chunley Coalition We're all about not recreating the wheel. If we have something that we refer to often, we made sure to include it in our toolkit so others can modify it to fit their own needs. Then, of course, the materials needed, some great clickable links on resources. You can see here's another digital story from the Chunli Coalition. Again, some follow-up questions to just assess how it went for you, if there's things that you could do to improve your efforts. A few hints. A trick that we learned is reaching out to high school and even middle school students too, because oftentimes at school they're learning how to create videos, and a lot of times the schools will pick it up as a project. You can see the Chunli Coalition's example of digital media. There's a couple visuals here that you can see. One thing we do is called note card stories, and this is just holding a card up that has a brief statement and then another card, and it scrolls through on a digital picture frame in our clinics. And we have, gosh, probably 12 to 15 of these that circulate and kind of get that story told with local faces and local names that people recognize. And again, always incorporating those cultural lifeways. In this example, we incorporated the Lakota language and traditional practices into our digital media just to make sure they feel very local and resonate with our community. So we'll move on to policy advocacy. Some of these sections only have one link. So this one is on gaining support. And you'll see here that, it might find it a little strange that policy advocacy is listed under the community engagement section when policy has its own section, but that was intentional. A policy is very difficult to impasse and even more difficult in some cases to enforce if you haven't properly engaged your community first and made sure that they're involved and aware in every step of the way. So that's why that falls in this section here. You'll see the planning steps for doing that work. What if some of these advocate struggles to influence a stakeholder? So a lot of this is just having those one-on-one conversations to find out where people are at and if there's any way that you can influence them to get them on board with your work. A couple hints from the Chunli Coalition, and then our example. This video here is one of my favorites. The smoke-free air ordinance was being threatened in council one day. Somebody was asking for an exemption to it for a particular tribal business. And we've notified our kids. We have a ability to text them, and we said, look, the ordinance that you fought so hard for is being threatened. Are you able to come to council and speak up about that? But unfortunately, it was testing day at the school, so they weren't able to. So these kids took it upon themselves to record themselves saying, please don't stop or make a hole in this ordinance. We want it to continue on. And then to include cultural lifeways, this is just one of our favorite posters of all time. We made sure that we had advocates who were considered sacred to the Lakotas. We couldn't have honestly gotten the policy passed without our youth supporters. Then in raise awareness, this is all about giving the community a reason to care. Kind of a spin on, we touched on getting that data and the story out of the data to share in a meaningful way. But this is more the stories, the personal stories, the local stories, those that that you need to really make your point. So some planning steps and action. Again, these are clickable links to different sections of the toolkit. Another Red Talk video. A few hints that we've learned. Using your volunteers to be the boots on the ground. So for us, we have a reservation the same size as the state of Connecticut. It's very large. But we are grateful to have a lot of volunteers and coalition members who live in every corner of the reservation. So when we have meetings, oftentimes we'll distribute, handouts and materials and say, who can take this to such and such business? A couple Chunli Coalition examples here. And in this, you can see to include the cultural lifeways, we applied the Lakota virtues in this newspaper ad here to respect and honor your loved ones by making your home smoke-free. So we're back to the homepage here. That's it for part 2. So if there was something that you were hoping I would click on that I didn't, make sure you come back and explore for yourself what the toolkit has to hold in the community engagement section.